History. And I'm very excited to have as my guest today the new president of the Jacksonville Historical Society, Judge Tyrie Boyer, and he's just been elected to a 2-year term. And I want to welcome Harry. Excuse me, what a Freudian slip. I want to welcome Tyrie, but before I do, I'd like to mention that the former president of the Jacksonville Historical Society and still our beloved colleague, Harry Reagan, will be up in the second segment with Tracy Denise, local author of a book on Ed Ball and Claude Pepper, and he'll be up in the second segment to talk about that. But first, welcome, Tyrie.
Well, thank you, and I want to say this. I appreciate that Harry has said that he is willing to continue this particular program indefinitely, and he agreed to that before I took over the position. So I want to thank Harry for not only doing a terrific job for 5 years, but for agreeing to stay so active.
And he did do a terrific job, and not only did he bring so much to the Historical Society, starting the History Consortium, which he did, is when all history groups in town come together to share what we're doing and to coordinate what we're doing. He also started this very television show and so many other projects, and was beloved, served for 5 years as president, and still continues on our board, and we're really lucky to have him and all the work he's put into saving the city's history. So he'll be up second segment, and even though I intoned Harry's name, I want to welcome you and tell you how happy I'm going to be as executive director of the Jacksonville Historical Society to work with you, Tyrie. It's going to be great fun.
Well, I've got to say this.
Okay.
Jacksonville Historical Society without Emily Liska would not be the Jacksonville Historical Society. Everybody appreciates it. By the way, if anybody doesn't know, Emily, you were one of the recent nominees for the Eve Award for all the work you do with and for the Jacksonville Historical Society, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Now that I have blushed effectively, I guess. What we were going to do in this segment not only is welcome you to the Jacksonville Historical Society, but also talk about the projects of the Society, what you envision for your tenure as president. And I think I'll just let you start where you'd like. If not, I'll be glad to throw in my thoughts.
Well, why don't we talk about what the Jacksonville Historical Society does? We preserve history of this area, Jacksonville and Northeast Florida. That's kind of a thumbnail comment on it. And we're fortunate to have three actual geographical locations in Jacksonville where we do work. And our main place is the St. Andrew's Church. I think we have a picture of it up there.
Yeah, if they put that up, because that is really the facility that is so, that people relate to our society. And it was a 1998 project. And I think you
I remember going to the Gator Bowl games and all the Florida-Georgia games and going by that particular place, which was mostly a ruin. And
there it is.
And it has been refurbished by the Jacksonville Historical Society, and that is where we maintain our offices. We have many events over there for our membership.
And and that's right, programs are there, very interesting programs, I will add, on Jacksonville history. And we also, the space is used for a lot of weddings. People thinking about getting married, having a party, having events, they call up the Jacksonville Historical Society and ask to use
And one of the nice things about that, and I didn't mean to overlap your comments, but the fact is, one of the nice things about that is it is not only a decommissioned church that appears to be a church and serves very well for the actual wedding, it also does well for receptions. And it has a kitchen, which not all those sorts of places do, and so and reasonably priced.
Well, it's a beautiful facility. I know we opened the facility doors, reopened them. They were originally opened in 1888. That was the first service there. It was deconsecrated, oddly enough. People don't think it would be so far back. 1957 is when residential life in that area was grinding to a halt, or at least had plummeted. So it was deconsecrated in 1957. We restored the building. It was $1 million restoration, and moved our headquarters there and opened the doors again in 1998. So 110 years to the date was our reopening.
And another restoration is the Merrill House, which is the second picture we have on the board up there to the right in the top. The Merrill House is a restoration that has been accomplished, or close to being accomplished, by the Jacksonville Historical Society. through donations, just as the St. Andrews
That's
was
right.
through donations.
There it is. That's a historic photo of the Merrill house. And those are actually the Merrill children, the three nearest each other. And the one little girl in the dress was a Merrill cousin. And they're standing at the front door of the house. And this is about 1900.
And who are the Merrills?
And the Merrill, James E. Merrill and his family. Merrill, Mr. Merrill, James Eugene Merrill, was a shipbuilder here. And he started out with a dry dock and repairs and became a shipbuilder. And actually built vessels that were instrumental in and barges instrumental in the making of the Panama Canal, the Spanish-American War. I didn't do that in order. Spanish-American War, Panama Canal, World War I, World War II. So significant in the life of Florida maritime history. And
an historical event that recently occurred at these two facilities was the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
ESPN used as headquarters the Merrill House and Old St. Andrew's Church, and we have a lot of pictures from those, and in fact they're mentioned in all sorts of national magazines.
It was indeed. I saw that we were the site for some indiscretion by a movie star, perhaps. That's what I read in some magazine I'd never read before, but nationally known. And I failed to bring one of the visuals that might have made more impact than all the wonderful books the Jacksonville Historical Society has, because when ESPN left after a week of setting up on our site and having their myriad of parties, they had all types of parties there, many family parties, evening parties with celebrities, but they had reinvented Old St. Andrews as a clubhouse. And deer heads were prominent in this decorative theme, and they asked us to come in and pick out a souvenir. So we picked out one of the deer heads, which will probably be displayed in the library of the Merrill House. So,
and then our third facility is on the South Bank. Will you describe that?
I'll be happy to. That's the Jacksonville Historical Center. And that is the only free Jacksonville history exhibit center in the city. And it's right at the foot of the Main Street Bridge, better known to any good Jacksonville Historical Society member and native as the John T. Alsop Bridge. And it's right at the southerly foot on the eastern side. And they're twin buildings. They look just alike. There it is. It's up there now. And the Maritime Museum has an identical looking building just on the west side of the Main Street Bridge, the west foot. So there it is. And
what are the benefits to members?
Well, we invite everyone in the city to become a member of the Jacksonville Historical Society, and by joining, you'll get notification, meaning mail, on all of the events of the society. And annually, we have at least 6 major programs for members of the society and the public if you find out, but it's easier to find out if you're a member. And these are programs, diverse topics. For instance, in January, at the timing of the Super Bowl, we had a program. Sam Kavaris was our speaker on the history of Jacksonville football. We have a program coming up. This will be July 26th, starting the evening of July 26th, and it is the history of Jacksonville baseball.
And another program we're going to have in short order is going to be the grand opening of the Merrill House in the fall.
That's right. November program.
And then for February next, we're going to have Judge Drayton talk about black history in the legal community throughout Florida, which most of the older black history happened in Jacksonville.
And Jacksonville was the most populous town in the early years.
For the legal system.
And in fact, just the program recently completed was a program on Kirby Smith and Alexander Darnes. And few people know the riveting history, interconnected history of those two men. Kirby Smith, of course, everyone pretty much knows, General Edmund Kirby Smith, born in St. Augustine, but also born in the same household that Kirby Smith was born in, was a man named Alexander Darnes, and he became the first private practice African-American physician in Jacksonville. So we had a wonderful program on that recently, and that gives people an idea what we produce for the Jacksonville public.
And in addition to that, we publish books.
We do, and it's a lot of work, but fun and rewarding.
And we brought some of them here today.
Yeah, we did. And you start where you might like.
Well, First Coast Steamboats, I don't know if you can see this, is the next publication that's actually going to be available for distribution.
And if you turn, yeah, there you, perfect. And it is that, we're expecting the book in July. and that is by Ed Miller. He's local author and expert on the area's maritime history. This is about his roughly 6th or 7th publication. I hope I won't offend him if I get the number wrong. And it's going to be a hardback publication, very exciting.
And what we'll do is have a book fair in November or December for people who are looking for Christmas presents.
Well, that's right. And we have, and anybody who wants to get these books now can get them now as well.
Another book that we published recently, well, we've actually gone through republication.
That's right.
A second printing.
That's
and
correct.
that was the Great Fire of 1901. And this was published as to coincide with the 100th anniversary of that disaster.
That's exactly right. And this is an award-winning book. We're very proud of that. And then in 2003,
The Architecture of Henry John Clouthier. And for those who don't know, he was the architect who came soon after the fire, and among other architecture in Jacksonville, he was the architect for what is now our City Hall, but used to be May Cohen's for some of those people who've been around here for a while.
That's beautiful.
Also published by Jacksonville Historical Society. The most recent publication is what?
This one, the Jacksonville Family Album. It's 7 pounds. It was published. I'll let you hold. You're doing such a good job getting those to the camera. This was published February of this year, and we are down to about 150 copies. We will republish in time for Christmas, but for people who want to be on the safe side should contact the Historical Society now or find it. Some local bookstores have it. Beautiful book, 432 pages, 574 photographs of Jacksonville history.
Most of which have never been published before,
that is accurate, and there's also a show at the Cummer right now in conjunction with this book, the Cummer Museum of Art and Gardens. You know, there is one thing that we have not talked about, which I think it's the most important thing we do, and I know you're very familiar with this, and this is the Jacksonville Historical Society Archival Repository. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, we presently have our archives housed at Jacksonville University Library. They've been kind enough to give us space. We are packed in there, and soon to move, or hopefully within the next 365 days, when the new library opens, they've agreed to give us some space for our archives. What are some of the things in there? What are some of the archives?
And we collect, we take from people. We have tens of thousands of photos relating to Jacksonville's history. We have rare maps. We have journals, diaries, manuscripts that people have written relating to Jacksonville. Any sort of any documents relating to the city's history, any photographs. We now, of course, are collecting you know, CD-ROMs, videos, films, all in there on the city's history. So it's very exciting to think that this one place, since 1929, we have been collecting these documents and these archival materials relating to the city. And we gladly intake all that. Lots of scrapbooks. What I've taken in the last couple of weeks, in the last week I took room keys to the Seminole and the George Washington Hotel. That was really a lot of fun to take, and just lots of other rare collections that we so welcome, and will save our city's history.
And Jacksonville Historical Society, and I think Harry was one that really got this working, or maybe I'm wrong, you've had a longer history than me, is the preservation of old buildings, even putting together an endangered list of buildings and trying to make certain that some of those buildings can be preserved.
That's right. Harry Reagan is certainly the father of that project and the architect of that project, and soon there will be a press conference announcing the Jacksonville Historical Society's most endangered buildings, and that was a direct project of his presidential administration. One
of the things I want to make certain that we get completed while I'm in this job is the publication of a book about neighborhoods in Jacksonville, the historical neighborhoods in Jacksonville. And Emily, you've indicated that you would be willing to edit that?
You get it written and I'll work on that editing. That's right. That's how we'll work that project. It's a huge project, and I hope it can be accomplished.
I just wanted to make certain that we had it on tape.
On tape. Well, you are just going to be something to work with. I'm so glad to have had you here. President of the Jacksonville Historical Society, Tyrie Boyer. Look forward to working with you the next 2 years at least. And I want to thank you. I want everyone to stay tuned for the next segment. And remember, you can find out more about what we've talked about today on the show visiting www.jackshistory.com.